In today's video, I already have the lineup for Igor Tudor to play against Villarreal. And I know that some of you will tell Beppe, it's only Monday morning. Calm down, there is time to speak about Champions League, there is time to speak about Villarreal. We just finished the draw against Atalanta, we are still pissed off, and you're already thinking about the next one. And no, because today we train, tomorrow we travel, and Wednesday we already play. So everything goes extremely fast before thinking about Milan, before that international break. And international break doesn't mean that you will rest. We'll come back on that in a second, especially speak about Ken and Yildiz. If we have sometimes a bit of Mercato voices about Manu Locatelli and also probably why he didn't play the game against Atalanta. Ciao Juventini of the world, my name is Giuseppe, welcome back on the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Of course, some of you will tell it's far away, Atalanta was there, the Serie A match day 5 is not even over because today 2 more games, Parma, Torino, Genoa, Lazio. Well, if we are looking at the ranking at the moment, these 4 teams are not really in target or in the sight of Juve. On the other side, with the results of yesterday, Milan beating Napoli, what can we say? That we are there. Ragazzi, even with the disaster Verona game, even if the lost points against Atalanta, because yes, we are speaking about lost points, we are there at -1 of the top of the league in Serie A, which all things considered, if we are speaking only about points, it's not a disaster. Of course, winning that game against Verona, winning against Atalanta, probably today we have spoken already about the mini first gap, but that's not the reality. So that's the good news. On the other side, what can we say? That above us, we don't have only one team anymore like last week, that was Napoli, but ci sono anche Max e Gasperini. Also Max Allegri and Giampiero Gasperini are there on top with 12 points, equaling Antonio Conte. And what a Milan. Milan da Leoni, Lion Milan, can we call them like that? At least that's the word that Gazzetta dello Sport has decided to call them today. Milan da Leoni. And if you watch the game of yesterday, well, a lot of us can agree that yesterday it was a Milan da Leoni. They were really strong. They were really great. Not a lot of people were thinking that it would have been possible to beat the mega favorite of Serie A, the team of Napoli, the team of Antonio Conte. Well, they did it, and they totally deserve to do it with the super Pulisic in that first half, but with the super Milan in that first half. Look at Modric, 90 minutes of fantastic football, one that is not too big to at the 95th or 97th minute to take that ball and put it there in the air far away, and then celebrating as crazy. Rabiot that is reinforcing immediately that Milan of Max Allegri, a Salamaker, fantastic yesterday, not only because of the goal but the performance after performance after performance. I still don't understand how Bologna didn't sign him for only 8 million euro. Crazy things in life. That's a pity, huh? Really a pity that we didn't go for Salamakers this summer, because I'm sure that we could have needed him a lot on that right side, even on that left side, because it's a player that can play on both the sides, a bit more up front, a bit more in the back. Anyway, it is what it is, and the thing is that we are playing against Milan next week, because if the good news is that we are only at -1, well, next week it could be that not only we are at -4, but on top of that with a lot of teams above us, because behind us we have an Inter, we have an Atalanta, we have a Cremonese, all at 9 points. Even Como is there at 8. And next week, before the international break, there will be Napoli, Genoa, easier on paper for Napoli. There will be Fiorentina, Roma with a disaster Pioli, only 3 points in 5 games against Roma that is not scoring a lot, but they are absolutely not conceding. Gasperini in a new version in that new Roma. Atalanta is playing against Como, Inter the easy game on paper, even if Cremonese is never giving up. So attenzione to next week. And playing against Milan will be a tough one, but we are here after 4 minutes speaking about Serie A, while I told you in the beginning of this the video, we have a line, because of course now we need to think only about the games after against Villarreal. We started the competition with the big ears against Dortmund with a 4-4, which means that we already lost 2 points, and the huge big risk is to go to Real Madrid for match day 3 in Champions League with 1 point on 6. And maybe even losing that game, that would be really dangerous, because you start the competition in the worst possible way with 1 point on 9. Ragazzi, so that means that Villarreal is already a crucial, vital game against Villarreal that is in top form in La Liga. They just beat again Atletico Bilbao 1-0, what was right enough for them to be third in La Liga at the moment, the huge big surprise of this season. Bremer, yes. Thuram, maybe. Today there will be some tests for Thuram to understand if he totally recuperated to travel with the team, to be there, how many minutes he has in his legs, and this is what Tudor needs to understand, the physical condition of a lot of their players. Bremer, yes, already told you. Thuram, we don't know. Conceição should be back there. This has been also publicly announced by Igor Tudor after the game against Atalanta. But now, after him understanding who is available, it's the point that we understand what Tudor has in mind, what Tudor is, what Tudor can do, because the next two games, Villarreal and Milan, are already extremely important. We knew it already, from the day that the calendars were announced, that beginning of the season, right after the Club World Cup, would have been tremendous, would have been extremely difficult. The level of games, one after the other, would have been really difficult to manage, and that's the situation we are in. But we knew it up front, so now we are asking from Tudor to understand what he has in him, what he can deliver. One of the big problems, of course, is understanding who is number 9. This is what we ask to Tudor. If at the moment you don't want to play with two strikers, so who is our striker and what can I do and how can he perform? Something that we already asked in the video of yesterday. You remember that advice? Choose one and go for it. If you're looking at the individual statistics, Jonathan David, he played at the moment the most minutes as a number 9, or at least on the field with Juve from the three strikers that we have, with 233 minutes. Does he start to be a case? Yes, if we know that he didn't play a single minute against Atalanta. Of course, not playing against Villarreal, not playing against Milan could open a real huge big case, but we are not there yet. But what is his record in these 233 minutes in 5 appearances at the moment with Juve? 1 goal and 1 assist. That beautiful assist for Adic against Inter. Dusan Vlahovic on the other side, 3 minutes less than Jonathan David, 230 in total, 6 appearances, so 1 more, but 4 goals, all of them from the bench. Is it the case to continue now to insist on Dusan Vlahovic, that is at the moment the best top scorer of the Bianconeri, and then 1 assist also for him? Lois Openda, one that was totally isolated against Atalanta. It didn't work out at all because of him, because of Tudor, because of Damien Comolli that signed a player that was maybe not needed. These are the questions that we need to understand, but we went for him like we went for Jonathan David. He has 4 appearances, 183 minutes, 0 goals, 0 assists. So at the moment, he's the player that is not delivering after 6 days. Can we say, because he arrived a bit later, but anyway, after 6 games of Juve. Is the moment of Openda? Is it the moment of Jonathan David? Is it the moment of Dusan Vlahovic? A decision that Tudor must choose. And I will tell you, choose for Openda. Choose for Jonathan David, not that much for Dusan Vlahovic. It's the moment now to take one player that will be in our team, hopefully for a few seasons, and that you go for him. That you try, not always looking for the striker to adapt to the other, to the opponent. Choose one where our players will start to create automatism, habits, knowing, understanding the movements that the player prefers, so that we are putting him at ease. It's the moment to do that. And then, of course, we need to understand also Kenan Yildiz, because if we spoke about Thuram, if we spoke about Bremer, one of the other important players at Juve, probably the 3rd most important player, and I'm not making a ranking, but I'm speaking about la spina dorsale, you know, I don't know how you say in English. I have it. The backbone of Juve, with a defender, a midfielder, and 1 offensive player, is Kenan Yildiz. But Kenan Yildiz also against Atalanta looked extremely tired, exhausted, out of energy, in battery save mode. Can we call it like that? I think yes. Only 4 minutes for him this season where he didn't play. It's not a lot, It's not a lot. He's playing game in, game out, and we are always looking for Kenan Yildiz to save us with una magia, with an individual initiative. Well, it's difficult also for Kenan Yildiz at the moment, and you will tell me, Beppe, let him go, let him push for 2 extra games, Villarreal, Milan, so then we have that international break where he can rest. Attenzione, because after these 2 games, he will travel to play against Bulgaria, there, in the home of Blago, the Presidente, Ciao Grande, and then playing against Georgia in Istanbul. So 2 games that are on paper extremely difficult. Again, Kenan Yildiz against Mika Odace in Champions League against Villarreal, and then closing with the international break against Mikoladze and Kvaratskhelia again. So really big games for him before coming back. And then what do we have? Well, we have Como at 12:30 p.m. on the 19th of October. We have Real Madrid, Lazio, difficult games. Udinese, Cremonese, and Sporting Torino is the last game before the third international break. So you see, it's one after the other. So it's not like push 2 games and then rest, because after that, Turkey and Montella will play him. And then we play Como, Real Madrid, Lazio. Really, really difficult. So before thinking about him resting, we need to think about the 29th of October. And that's why I go towards the first advice in terms of lineup to beat Villarreal that I have in mind for Igor Tudor. If Tudor, because it looks like he will not change really drastically the formation, he will not play with a 4-man defense right now at the moment. In the future we will see, but at the moment not. Will play with a 3-5-2, with a 3-5-2 made of Di Gregorio, Kalulu, Bremer and Kelly. Joao Mario, Cope Manners, Locatelli, McKennie in the midfield and Cambiaso there on the left, and up on top David and Yildiz. That would be my advice for Tudor. If you don't want, or depending also on the minutes of Cabal, play Cabal on the left from the start with Cambiaso on the right. Why would I do that lineup? Well, first of all, because we know that he will not go crazy playing a 4-3-3. So I will not start dreaming about a 4-3-3 or a 4-3-2-1 or 4-3-1-2 if this is absolutely not the plan of Tudor. Uno. Two, to avoid risking Thuram. We don't know if he will make it. Uno. We don't know how many minutes he will have. Two. And if he plays and it is to have a Thuram that can potentially be injured, or Thuram at half battery level, not being able to give the intensity in a 2-man midfield that we need, well, I prefer to rest him. At least we have players on the field that are able to run for 90 minutes. And that's why I would go for a 3-man midfield there to avoid risking Thuram with a calf problem, with fatigue. Like that, with 3 midfielders, you are also, don't forget, splitting the job of the midfielder. For example, Locatelli, that if Cambiaso and Joao Mario are pushing up and you are leaving spaces, well, just Locatelli dropping back, something that he's used to, can reinforce a defense that becomes a 4-man defense with Kelly on the left, Bremer, Locatelli, and Kalulu then on the right side. That could be one thing with Locatelli doing that, and at least if he drops, our midfield is not empty with only Thuram there to do all the jobs, but you still have a McKennie and a Cope Manners there in the midfield. You push more with your offensive wing backs, because instead of a Kalulu that is more defensive, more cautious, you play with a Joao Mario that is able to really push. You play with a Cambiaso that could potentially also really push. You have 2 players that can give offensively more strength to the only Yildiz and Jonathan David there up front. You spare Yildiz. Look at the heat map that I designed there, that I draw there. Look, you have a Kenan Yildiz that would spare some kilometers, not running the entire left wing, just there where you have the possibility to have a bigger impact, just there, playing in duo with Jonathan David that can run, that can go up into the box because he loves to be in the box, receiving balls, playing in duo with Kenan Yildiz, communicating with him. And then pay attention, you also have the super subs, Conceição, Jagrova, Openda, Dusan Vlahovic, fantastic upfront players with Adzic as well. You have a lot of different solutions to not only change man for man, but also on top of that, you have the possibility to change your formation, going back to a 3-4-2-1 if you want, or going back to whatever formation that you want, because you have a lot of alternatives there on the bench. And on top of that, and that's probably an important one as well, Villarreal is playing with a 4-4-2, and how do you beat a 4-4-2 formation? Well, you need to actually go and punish them on their weaker midfield, because they are playing with 2 midfielders. If you create there the superiority with 1 more man in that midfield, you are the one that is dominating the game. You are the one that is in possession of ball. You are the one that immediately can press and can go with aggressivity in taking that ball. That's super important. And if you play the 3-5-2, you can also ask to Joao Mario, to Cambiaso, or to Cabal and Cambiaso, whatever, whoever you play there, to widen the game, to go really, really, really far on the left and really, really far on the right. What you cannot ask to Ken and Yildiz, but you can ask them to them. If they go there, well, Villarreal will not be able to be extremely compact. If they go compact to defend, you have all the way up. You can easily push with Cambiaso, with Joao Mario. You can easily actually make sure that our defense, our three-man defense, is going a bit more higher on the field. If they widen their game because they want to defend on our wingers, well, you have also centrally that possibility to play with Kenan Yildiz and with Jonathan David. So that's what I think could be potentially an early, because we don't know yet the physical condition of the players, but an early lineup for Igor Tudor. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about all the other things. And in another video, we'll come back to the voices of Locatelli that could possibly be interested by a lot of clubs. Chelsea, Newcastle, Aston Villa, West Ham, Bayern Leverkusen. When you have that many clubs that are starting to be interested in a player, that means that the club that is owning the Italian one is not closing the doors. We'll speak on that in another video. If you enjoy, please put a maximum of like. Don't forget to subscribe. Grazie, forza, Juve.